Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. On behalf of the Board of Education, welcome to our meeting this evening. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available shortly through the school website using a link to board docs. We would like you to know that if you have questions or concerns, that we strongly encourage you to utilize the Honeoye Central chain of contact. This will ensure that topics that are of importance to you are directed to the appropriate person and can be looked into in a timely and efficient manner. Before we proceed, please set your phones and devices to silent or turn them off so that we can conduct board business without disruption. Jen, is there anyone signed up to speak during public expression tonight? No. Okay, then we will forego public expression this evening. And we will move on to kudos. Does anybody have any kudos to share tonight? No? Jerry's not here, so there won't be a long list this evening. So I just have one item. I would just like to say a thank you to Megan and Jerry, even though he's not here, for meeting with me on March 30th, and we took the board handbook and broke it into two pieces. It only took about an hour and a half, which was shorter than the first time when we rewrote the whole handbook. So I would just like to say thank you again for the extra effort and for helping to improve things for our board and for boards to come. Thank you. Next is Board of Education committee reports and updates. Does anyone have anything for that? No, nothing for finance. He's going to do it later. Okay. And then I'll just, so I think you had a meeting April 6th. Okay, so April 6th for Finance Committee, and then there was a meeting for the capital improvement project that the facilities subcommittee was invited to. Unfortunately, myself and Jim were not able to make it. That was April 2nd. I'm sure that will be covered later on. We're supposed to be meeting every 4 weeks till, okay, April 29th, every other week. I was confused, to be honest, because it says every 4 weeks through December 4th to December 31st on the invite I got. So I was a little confused when I was actually supposed to be there. I missed it. I was late for December 4th, 2025. Okay, thank you. And so if no one, does anybody have anything else for committee reports or updates? All right, then I will turn the floor over to Superintendent Fluke for the superintendent report.
Okay, thank you, Tori. We have a few highlights this evening, including a presentation from our mental health team. But first, let's take a look at activities from across the district. First, congratulations to Otto G for being recognized at Senator Pam Helming's 2026 Youth Leadership Recognition Award Ceremony, honoring students who demonstrate outstanding leadership and achievement in academics, athletics, music, the arts, and community service. Otto is a National Honor Society student and is enrolled in several dual enrollment and AP level courses. He has been named in numerous honor rolls and was a past Rotary Student of the Month awardee. He helps tutor peers in math and social studies and also works in the community. So a big kudos to Otto. Another big congratulations to ROZO to Zara O, named News 10 NBC's Scholar Athlete of the Week. People who know Zara say that Zara is a, quote, a standout pole vaulter and competitor, but also someone who excels in the classroom and who makes an impact through her creativity, her painting of murals, and in the way she gives back to her community. So great job to Zara. Congratulations to this month's Rotary honorees, middle school student Matthew D. and high school student Cypress R. for outstanding citizenship and for being positive community service members. We are also highlighting the Finger Lakes Technical and Career Center. Currently, we have 30 students who spend their day at FLTCC. Our students are gaining valuable knowledge and hands-on experience in the following programs: advanced manufacturing, electrical, health professions, emergency services, animal science, education, diesel repair operation, cosmetology, and auto body. Several board members and I will be attending FLTCC a tour next Friday, and we are looking forward to seeing these programs in action. Students asked and we listened. Intramural coach Ian Buckley will be adding flag football to his repertoire of spring activities. At this time, we are not positioned to have a flag football team, but we are positioned to offer it during intramural. So thank you to Mr. Buckley for adjusting his program to provide this additional opportunity for students. Okay. And now, please join me in welcoming members of our mental health team. We have Andrea Johnson, Andrea Johnson, Molly Perrin, Rachel Davis, Kate Van Leer, and Evan Carrier. Please welcome them to the podium.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. So we're just going to talk as a mental health team a little bit about our different roles as mental health providers at HCS, talk a little bit about all the things that we do, and then we'll talk a little bit about how all of those things fall into a multi-tiered system of support to make sure that all of our students are getting exactly what they need when it comes to their social emotional health. So my name is Molly Perrin. I was a K-12 social worker in the district. This year I pivoted to working K-5, so I'm in the elementary building. As a school social worker, some of my specific responsibilities include developing and updating our community resource guide and helping families to connect with resources in the area, whether that be with mental health counseling, insurance, housing, medical, financial, food, resources, things like that. So helping make sure that our students and their families have their basic needs met so that they can do their best learning. We know that that's the most important thing before they can achieve those bigger things that we know that they're able to do. In addition, I work a lot with area organizations, partnering with bringing resources to HCS. As a really rural district, it can be hard for a lot of our families to get to some of the resources that I refer to. And so I've worked in partnership with the district, with our school nurse, Mary Beth Tonkery, to bring in some of those resources, things like having a school-based satellite provider through Ontario County Mental Health. So we have a therapist in the building one time per week who bills insurance, as well as having Mosaic Dental here once, if not twice, every year to provide dental services to students. In addition, I conduct interviews, so I help with the Committee on Special Education process and meet with families to do social history interviews, and supervise and manage primary project programming. So a little bit of everything, but helping really to connect with those resources in the community and make sure our students and families have what they need is kind of my niche area as school social worker.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Davis. I'm the elementary school psychologist, K through 5, along with Andrea Johnson, who is our secondary school psychologist, grades 6 through 12. And some things that are specific to the school psychologist role are testing and report writing for initial referrals to the Committee on Special Education, as well as evaluations that we are required to do for students that already have IEPs. We also attend those meetings and help develop IEPs in collaboration with teachers, families, and students. We also case manage 504 plans and conduct reevaluation assessments for those 504 plans. We also attend and sometimes chair the 504 meetings, and again, help develop and manage the 504 plans in collaboration with students, families, and teachers. We also conduct, it's called functional behavior assessments, looking at sometimes challenging behaviors with students. We take a lot of data and kind of analyze that data and then develop behavior intervention plans based on that analysis, again, in collaboration with students, families, and teachers. And then lastly, we plan for and do evaluations for students at out-of-district placements.
I'm Evan Carrier. I'm the 6th grade through 9th grade counselor. Sorry, we reorganized. I was K through 8 for a while. Additionally, what school counselors do, Kate and myself, we will do a lot of individual academic planning. So we meet with every student starting in 8th grade to talk about planning what they want to do after they get out of here, whether that be going into the workforce, going to college, doing any kind of military or other kind of trainings that they want to do. I also meet with them in a classroom setting starting in 6th grade. I go into their facts classroom and we do a whole lesson on what are jobs that line up with personalities that fit you and what jobs line up with your interests as well, and like where do those two things meet. So then we really start that process early in 6th grade, and then I'll push in sometimes with the facts classroom or in other classes to talk about how can we like get them where they want to be or understand what their options are, because obviously from 6th to 12th grade their interests are going to change. So really understanding where they're at, what they want to do. Some other things that I do personally, obviously you guys probably all know me and wondering where my furry friend is. He's not here today, but I have the therapy dog, Mr. Feeney. He comes here usually 2 days a week and helps support students. He likes going into the library, wandering into random classes, and just probably looking for food, but also attention. And I think he's a really good help for kids to be supported here. Other things that we do is we spend a lot of time making the whole schedule for the whole school. So that sometimes it really stretches into the summer. You have started the process already, but then we also make the schedules for the students after we make the schedule for the whole school. And that's kind of how everybody gets where they need to be.
In addition to that, as a school counselor, so I'm now 10 through 12. So Evan took 9th grade. And so I do a lot of things with standardized testing. I'm the testing coordinator for the high school. So all the AP tests, the PSATs, the school day SAT that we offer, that I just found out not a lot of other schools offer anymore. So I feel good about that. And then I do a lot of collaboration with local donors for scholarships. So the ones we already have, those are always highlighted at graduation or the awards assembly, but we're creating some new ones. We have 2 or 3 new ones this year. I've brought people into the building. We've had meetings on what they want to offer, who they want to offer it to, and I've really helped them be able to offer those opportunities to our kids. So that's really cool. Also collaborating with FLCC as the Gemini coordinator, so getting those kids those college credits, and making sure they're registered and they're getting the credits that they need. And then this year we've added teen mental health first aid. So Molly was doing that before, and so I've taken that over as the teen mental health first aid coordinator. So I go into 10th grade health classes, and it's a 6-week program. So we go in, we have a topic every week, and the kids seem to be really enjoying it. So those are some of the things that we do as school counselors.
So I'm Andrea Johnson. I am now 6 through 12 school psychologist. So what you've heard so far is what we each do individually, pretty different job responsibilities. If you look at our training and what we do day to day, there is a huge overlap. Like all of us do a lot of the same things. So that's what my job is, to talk a little bit about that. So obviously we all do counseling. We all do IEP counseling. When counseling is on a student's IEP, we're the ones who do that. We also see a lot of kids for what we call general education counseling, and maybe only for 6 weeks or maybe just a couple times. So we all do that. We like things we call like check-ins, or check in with kids at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, monitoring behavior support plans. We have several of those going right now. We monitor that, whether it's on a chart or some other kind of mechanism. We all have a radio, so we're all expected to respond to student support team calls if we're not tied up in a meeting or something like that. So we all do that. We all try to use the TCIS approach, so that's Therapeutic Crisis Intervention System. And Rachel and Evan have been involved in training our teachers. So, all that approach is the goal is to help students regulate and learn new coping skills. So in everything we do, we try to use that TCIS approach. Of course, we all collaborate with teachers and parents. All of us at some point or another do lessons in classrooms, whether it's zones or, like Kate mentioned, teen mental health. We also are all part of teams or committees. For example, the student support team. There's one at the secondary level, there's one at the elementary level. And those teams are the places where kids are referred to us by teachers or just by us, and we come up with a plan to address concerns. It may be academic, it may be attendance, it may be behavioral, it may be all three. So we're all part of those teams. We are all part of the TIG team, which you're probably familiar with. When there is some sort of a crisis or big incident in the district, we all convene, and I believe Nate is in charge, is our TIG coordinator now. And it just gives us a structure and a system for a way to respond to any sort of a significant incident that's happened. And we're all part of the district safety team. So that just gives an idea of the things, those are things we all do. And now Molly's going to wrap this up, I think.
So as you've heard, we all kind of have our unique specialty areas, but there's also overlap in the things that we do. And so on the back part of your page, you'll see kind of a different way to look at all of the things that we've already talked about. So at HCS, for both academic support and social emotional support, we use a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. That looks at interventions, tier 1 interventions for all students, so things that every single student is getting. Tier 2 interventions, which are some students. And then tier 3 interventions, those are for few students. Those are for the more intensive interventions. So if we start on the bottom of the pyramid, some of those tier 1 interventions that we've talked about are the zones of regulation in our elementary building. Almost every single classroom has received 6 to 10 weeks of explicit education on self-awareness, on emotional awareness, on regulation and coping tools. And Rachel and I are both have led that in the elementary building. Kate mentioned teen mental health first aid. Every single 10th grader receives that. In addition, in our elementary building, you might have heard about our Bulldog 4. So that's a tier 1 evidence-based intervention of positive behavior interventions and supports. All of our students are working towards meeting those expectations together and earning things when they do that. In addition, all of our students have access to counseling support, receive mandated through Aaron's Law education from Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes, and when they're in 5th grade, receive 2 Goods for Drugs and Violence education from our school resource officer and our prevention educator. In tier 2 interventions, these are all things that we've also talked about. So for some students, those things include small group counseling. That might be lunch bunches where we're trying to help foster social relationships between students. It may be targeted interventions for social skills, for self-regulation. In addition, some other tier 2 interventions we offer are check-in, check-out, like Andrea mentioned, checking in with students at the beginning of the day and out at the end of the day, or supporting teachers and staff in doing that in their own classrooms. Primary project, which is a tier 2 intervention for kindergarten through 3rd graders. Attendance support, meaning for our students who are chronically absent, monitoring attendance, providing support for parents and overcoming some of the barriers to attendance, as well as parent consultation and support. Not something we do for every single family, but something that's available to all families, working with families closely to identify maybe what the barriers are to success in school and make sure we're making referrals or working with them and their children to make sure that school can be the best experience possible. And then up at tier 3 interventions, again, these are things that we've shared. These are things that few students are receiving, and that's the goal. We want most of our students to be receiving those tier 1. And as we work our way up, we want few of our students to need those tier 3 interventions. And then fewer of them to receive those. So in tier 3, we have things like crisis intervention. That's when our radios go off. It might be a time where we need to do an assessment, meet with a student on the spot, individual counseling, as well as functional behavioral assessments and behavior intervention plans. So again, this is kind of all of what we shared in the first page, but a different way to look at it to see how all of our students are receiving those supports. So that's kind of an overview of everything that we do. Are there any questions or things any of us can answer or clarify? No? Great, thanks for having. Yeah?
There will be a name change. So I'm a Helling now. We just got married last week. So yeah, it will be Kate Helling, but I can't have everything official until my paperwork comes in. So just keep an eye out for that.
Congratulations. I just want to say a special thank you to this team. We are so proud of the work that you do. I cannot be more thankful. I know you work so hard each and every day. The support that you provide our students truly make a difference. So I just thank you, thank you. Can we give this team a round of applause? Okay, and now we will hear from our student board member, Marley.
Okay. So for sports, it's still the beginning of the season, but some highlights are the tennis team got a lot of new members this year. Lacrosse has 2 players on the New York State top, I think, 100 players to watch list. And then baseball is having a good start to their season, merging with Bloomfield. For clubs, Masterminds had their last practice today and their final regular season matches next Thursday. And they're looking at possibly a league title for the first time in a very long time. French Club just got back from their trip and they went to Rennes, Omaha Beach, and Paris, as well as many other cities. And then Youth to Use recently had a Brownie Sunday sale and they sold out 2 days, which was very good for them. Here's just some pictures from the French trip. The top one on the left is at Omaha. The top right is when we're leaving. And then the other two, I'm not quite sure. Okay. And then the student requests for this month were an athlete reading day. So a lot of schools around the area have a chance where varsity athletes sign up during like a free period to go read to younger classes. And it's just a nice way to bond like the high school elementary relationships. And looking at the schools that do this already, most of them don't have a combined building, which I think would be an advantage for us because the students don't have to go from the high school to the elementary. I know my mom's school personally does it, and all her students get very excited. And they also talk about their sports and what it means to be a varsity athlete and how you have to keep your grades up and all of that good stuff. Flag football, which I know was touched on already. There was a request for that as either a club or intramural. And then another suggestion was sending out a Google form at the beginning of the school year or the end of the previous one to see what students are interested in for the following year. And then the main suggestion was more pep rallies potentially, specifically 3 a year before. So keeping the homecoming one and then the other 2 before sectionals for those sport seasons, and including games where administration, teachers, and students get to interact throughout the year.
Okay, very good. I love these suggestions, Marley. Thank you so much. And we will certainly bring these back to the team. Great ideas. And you're right, we are a K-12 building, so I love the idea of having the older kids read at the elementary level. All right.
These are just some upcoming events that students are looking forward to. The senior trip, prom, which the prom committee is meeting every Wednesday from now until prom. So hopefully it's good this year. Senior commitment day, which Mrs. Van Laer sent an email about, and then the math and physics Seabreeze trip. And that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Marley. All right, and moving on to updates, I want to share a brief update on the advocacy efforts at the state level. Senator Pam Helming has been actively communicating with both the governor and legislative leaders about the importance of strengthening the foundation aid formula as we discussed at our last meeting. In those conversations, she has highlighted the need for continued improvements to the formula, including greater flexibility in how a district's combined wealth ratio is calculated. So funding more accurately reflects the unique circumstances of individual communities, as Mr. Valise touched on last time. Senator Helming also strongly notes the significant cost increases, as we have seen, in transportation, utilities, insurance, and healthcare. As a region, we appreciate Senator Helming's continued advocacy and will continue to update the board as appropriate. Our PA/clock system installation is scheduled to begin at the end of the month. This work will take place in phases and during evening shifts to minimize disruption to the school day. The upgraded system will improve communication throughout the building and also enhance safety features. And really, I think what most staff are going to be excited about is ensure consistent and accurate time across the district. The playground build remains right on schedule with our community coordinators hard at work. Our next milestone is the pre-construction meeting when coordinators, committee members, prospective crew leaders. So that's really important. We need those crew leaders. I think we have 6 right now. We need 3 more. But we're going to be meeting with Play by Design right here in the LGI on May 19th to review final plans, roles, and the construction process. Board members, please know that you're also invited to attend on that day. Regarding bus delays and communication procedures, as some may have experienced, buses can run sometimes later than expected due to factors such as weather, traffic, mechanical issues, or medical emergencies. We have clear procedures in place to locate buses and communicate quickly with families when delays occur, and those procedures have now been articulated and posted to our website. If they're not yet, they will be by the end of the week. So we have documented all of those procedures, posted to our website, and you can see them on the transportation tab. And lastly, from Albany today, the New York State budget is now 1 week overdue, still with no agreement. And as of yesterday, a second budget extender was passed. So we're not going to have any of that news yet for you tonight. But with that, I turn it over to our business official who will touch more on that, as well as share important information about our budget. And I did include here, just for your viewing, the bus delays and communication procedures. Here they are. But again, you'll see them on our website. Okay.
Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome.
So first, we're going to start off with just the business office updates. So every meeting we give an update on the capital project. So as part of the finance or the facilities committee meeting last week, we talked about how we're working on finalizing the schedule. So the board has approved the new contracts at the special board meeting last month. And at that point, the contractors provide their milestone schedules, which is kind of their schedules for building, but then we have a GC that needs the general contractor that needs to blend those together, because a contractor may believe that they can get into a space sooner than they can, but with all the other work, they might not be able to. So that's where we are in that part of the capital project. Is the general contractor is making sure that the timelines provided by the plumbing, the electricity, the roof people, they're able to get into those spots during their timeline. So then in the May meeting, I believe that we should be able to finalize and communicate out the actual construction timeline. And as Superintendent Fluke just mentioned, the new PA clocks, they're going to begin April 20th, and they're going to be working third shift. The new clocks will not be in during this school year, but they're going to start pulling the cable. So then over the summer, it's just a plug and play, and the goal is to be live come September. But they're going to start pulling third shift on April 20th. And then we have the EPC. We're going to talk a little bit more about it as part of the budget process. But the EPC is an energy performance contract. It is a way that we can update some energy efficiency in our project and get a lot of money from New York State in this. So the board has approved Day Automation as our EPC contractor. They're doing some testing, evaluating our bills, especially with the spike in utilities, so we can finalize the dollar amount of that project. Fortunately, for us, that spike in utilities means that we might be able to get a little bit more done. They put some sensors in the classrooms to track temperatures, to check the efficiencies. And once that's done, we'll get a final project. But we are looking for the community to vote for an approval of a 10% additional aid. Remember, this project really does not have a tax impact. The district's contribution is our savings. So if we used to pay 100,000 and we're going to be only paying 80,000 in utilities, our contribution is 20,000. New York State pays the rest of it. So there isn't a tax impact, but it won't decrease utilities. But the good news is going forward, when we do see rate increases, we're locked in at that 20,000 and we're less susceptible to variations to utility prices or cold weather that increases those. The third capital project that we got going on is our annual capital outlay. For the last several years, we have been updating our fire-rated doors in our buildings. So those doors are ordered. Unfortunately, those are long lead items, but they are ordered and they should be on time. This project needs to get closed out by June 30th, but we still look like we're on time for that project. In regards to the budget and the property tax report card. So tonight, we're just going to talk about the proposed expenditures, our proposed revenues, give an opportunity for the board to weigh in on that. And then we'll just talk about the other propositions that are on the ballot and then important dates. So our proposed expenditures. The elementary school is going down a little bit, and some things that are included in the elementary budget is a reduction of a 0.6 FTE. We are able to absorb that through another person. It's not that we're going to not offer art, but we have the ability to absorb that. That's currently a vacant position this year. We have a long-term sub in there currently, but we were able to reduce that position. We are also reducing a 1.0 FTE teaching assistant. And then beginning next school year is a requirement, or the beginning of the requirement of a financial literacy course. So there is an increase in materials related to the financial literacy. You only see a net of $40 in the elementary budget because they were able to cut some other supplies in other areas. There was a code for like summer school, but we don't run summer school anymore. So it's costing a little bit more than, it's just a couple $100, but it's more than $40 that are listed there. Other than that, in the elementary school, you see the software and textbooks coming out of the elementary and is going to a district instruction category. So Mrs. Squino, in her new position, she's overseeing a lot of the instruction and the software. And rather than having in the building, she has the bigger picture. So then our curriculum can be more aligned across both buildings by having it at the district level as opposed to at the building level. So overall, there's a decrease. Some of it's artificial just because of the movement of where that textbook and software is going on. The secondary, there isn't much change right now. We mentioned before, we are working on developing a 5-year financial plan that will tie into a 5-year instructional plan. We are in the early stages of it. You are seeing some of what we were able to come up with this year, but right now, especially at the secondary level, that's a little bit harder, and we want to be purposeful and thoughtful in that and how we tackle that. So as of right now, we are holding steady, so there is no programming changes happening at the secondary level. We were able to acknowledge some breakage. That's when a more expensive teacher retires and we anticipate hiring at a lower level. So we're able to recognize some of that. And then you also see that textbook money coming out, and then tuition. That tuition that comes out of the high school is a health services. So when a honorary student goes to a parochial school, we are still financially obligated to pay for health services. We have always budgeted $35,000, but we've never got to that number. So it seemed appropriate to right size that number to a more appropriate, realistic number. So you just see a reduction to that. It's not that we're cutting any programming. It was just over budgeted in years past because it's something that we don't really control because it's the cost of another district and we can't stop a student from going to a program placement. But if we look at it, like if we look back 5 years, we haven't been hitting that number. So we felt comfortable with that. In the district instruction category, you will see that we are purchasing new ELA curriculum materials. That curriculum has started to roll out, I believe, this year. So this is a lot of teacher manuals, consumables for students that we're looking to purchase, a reduction of a 1.0 special ed teacher, 3 additional out-of-district placements. So, and we had 3 as a buffer, but since we developed this budget about 6 weeks ago, 2 of them have actually been accounted for. So we only now have 1 additional special ed placement. That's some of the difficulties with special ed. As kids come in, they take our placements. So it's always good to budget for additional placements for when kids come in and you're not left trying to figure out how to pay for a $60,000, $70,000 student. In addition, we are looking to cover AP exam fees for students, which is new. So this was part of breaking down financial barriers for families. This year, we're part of an early college access program, which through BOCES, which we started picking up the cost for FLCC credits, which is $9 per student per Gemini course. It was a requirement to receive BOCES aid on our Gemini teachers. So it was done to bring in BOCES aid, but to continue our equity piece that we felt comfortable offering AP exam fees covered by the district going forward. There's also a reduction of a 0.3 FTE nurse and a 1.0 FTE 10-month clerical. The district office, we are looking at a reduction of a 0.8 FTE accounts payable clerk. We subscribe to the CBO over at BOCES, so we do have an accounts payable clerk still. We just kind of had a redundant process where we had somebody in the district and somebody at BOCES, so one person would collect the information and then one person would do data entry. Some other functions are able to be absorbed by other staff as well, so we were able to reduce that by 0.8. We also saw large increases to health insurance, as Natalie mentioned, in the state aid, or in her update on the finances. That's across pretty much the country that everybody's seeing that. And then we have an increase in debt related to the short-term borrowing for our upcoming capital projects. So we are going into the construction phase, as everybody's aware. So we're going to have to issue a ban, which is a 1-year borrowing to pay the contractors while it's going on. And then once it's done, we'll pay that off with a bond. But in the meantime, we're going to incur interest of roughly $312,000. When we borrow the money, we plan on getting what's called as capitalized interest. So it is a budget neutral thing. So we're going to borrow roughly $8 million. We're going to receive 8.3, and then we're going to use that 0.3 million to pay this debt. So we'll talk about that in the revenue. No tax impact. It is budget neutral, but we do have that expense, so we do have to acknowledge it on our books. Buildings and grounds, not a lot going on. There is a 10% increase to utilities. As we mentioned, our February bill came in significantly higher than we've ever seen. Normally in February, we see 14 to 16,000. It came in around 26,000. Good news is the month of March was only 5,000, so it has slowed down a little bit. So we are looking at a 10% increase in utilities and then just a reduction in cabling. When we looked at the budget for this year, we're not really using that full 44,000. So again, a little bit of right sizing of that budget. Transportation, again, we're looking at a 10% increase in utilities. They don't have a lot included in that. We only occupy 42% of that building. The town of Richmond occupies 48%. We pay the full 100%, but then every quarter we bill back to the town of Richmond and they reimburse us for that. So it's only the net that's our share. And then in addition to it, BOCES transportation costs. So this relates to one student that goes to Monroe 1 BOCES. It was a student that was placed there before they moved to Honeyway, and we maintain that placement. And all BOCES does it's essentially part of their tuition, but they've realized that if you bill transportation separately, you get reimbursed at transportation at a higher rate than you do for BOCES. So it's really part of their tuition. They just carved it out to help districts receive more state aid, but it's essentially tuition related to one student going to Monroe BOCES. So overall, our budget's going up $1.3 million, or roughly 6.55%. The biggest impacts are our health insurance, the debt, and utilities. We are looking at a 6% increase in our insurance as well, but so there's some big moving numbers here. Fortunately, our largest expenses are staff, but through breakage, we've been able to keep those around 2%. And then just looking at our costs in a pie chart, the largest portion of our money is going to our most valuable resources, which is our staff. So 65% of everything daily that the district receives goes to either salary or benefits. And then our second largest is BOCES, related to mostly our CBO, BOCES admin rent, and special education. We also do rely on them a lot for technology. So those are the big components in BOCES. So how are we going to pay for it? So this is a screenshot right from the state comptroller website. We enter information in there and it spits out what our tax levy increase is. Our tax levy increase, allowable tax levy increase, is 2.03%, which represents an increase of revenue of $221,824,000. This budget was built on the premise of going out at the cap at 2.03, but not exceeding the cap as promised to the community last year. In addition to state aid, as Superintendent Fluke mentioned, we do not have a state aid number, and unlike prior years, it's very quiet. There's a lot of back and forth going on. Yesterday, they just issued a 7-day budget extenders. In years past, it was 2 to 3 day budget extenders, and they would do them pretty repetitively. So what I'm hearing from the Association of School Business Officials is that's a sign that they're not very close. They would have been doing shorter 2-3 day budget extenders if they were close. There's not a lot in regards to school funding that's holding it up. It's a lot related to a 2019 energy something not related to school that's really holding up. And then there's some related to the EV bus, although in March, a bill was rejected to do away with the EV buses. So there's a lot going on. So in the original governor proposal, they suggested 1. Senator Pam Helming is suggesting 3%. The Senate is proposing 2%. So we're picking the neutral number of 2% in the foundation aid going forward. With it being an election year, I would be surprised to see 1% because the governor is up for election in November. So 2% seems like a comfortable number to go with the numbers that are flying around. You see an increase in BOCES aid related to some of the early college access, but in addition, last year in the state aid budget, they increased how much of BOCES salaries is eligible for aid. It was frozen from the early 90s and is incrementally going to increase over the next several years, which is good, which means even if we kept our spending flat, we should see an increase of BOCES aid coming in due to that change. High cost and private excess costs is related to special ed placements. We have a local share we have to pay, and then we get aided on anything in excess of that. Unfortunately, based off of the wealth of the community from New York State's perspective, our threshold is high, which is resulting in a decrease in excess costs. Hardware, technology, software, library, textbook aid, those are referred to as instructional material aids, and it's literally a dollar amount times the number of pupils. Because we are seeing a decline in pupils, you see those dollar amounts going down. Transportation costs are rising, so they're going up. And then building and reorg, some of that is related to our emergency capital project last year. So we were expecting to start receiving some building aid related to that. And then our high tax aid stayed the same. So overall, our state aid is going up $296,000 or 3.56%. Other miscellaneous revenues, when we have a foster student that came from another district, we are able to bill out to that district. So that tuition number is tied to a tuition number that we anticipate spending. Interest, we have been recognizing interest that we weren't actually allowed to spend in the current school year because the majority of the interest that we receive is related to money in reserves. The money actually has to flow into the reserve first, and then you can appropriate it in subsequent years, which we will be doing in the next slide. So when we were using $300,000 of interest in our budget, we weren't really allowed to spend it in that year. So now we're correcting that. We're going to let it go into the reserve and then start using it from the reserve. Other than that, there isn't a lot going on. The BOCES refund is related to once they close their books, they give us a share of how much we overpaid. That number we can't really control. It's based off of their budgeting practices and our utilization. So other than that, there's not a lot going on in the other missed revenues. Use of reserves. EBLAR is our post-employment benefits. So when a staff member retires and they get paid out for sick days, we can use that. ERS and TRS reserves are related to our pension costs. That debt service reserve relates to that short-term borrowing that I mentioned, that we're going to borrow money, we're going to receive money, and then we're going to pay that debt. So that's where that is from. Workers' comp reserve is related to workers' comp. And then new for Honeywell for next year is that last line, which is called appropriated fund balance. So when you put money into a reserve, that money becomes restricted for that use, such as EBLAR, ERS, TRS. But what an opportunity the district has is using appropriated fund balance, which is unused money at the end of this year that you can appropriate to the following year. But because it didn't go into reserve, you don't have to use it for its specific use. So if we're using it to cover salaries or whatever, it never went into a reserve, so we can spend it however we want rather than just ERS, TRS. So it makes it easier to balance the budget because in order to use the reserve, we have to have the corresponding expense. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough. There aren't reserves for salaries, so this is the way to accomplish that. So for this year, we're using $1.8 million of savings, but 307 is related to that borrowing. So naturally, we're right now we're operating in a deficit of roughly $1.5 million, but we're able to pay for that with our reserves. This may be hard to see, and I apologize. This is just our reserve picture. So as of June 30th, you could see the balance of those reserves. The transfers in and out relates to expenses that we appropriated. So in this current year budget, we used $665,000 of reserves to balance the budget. So you see the negatives and then you see the positive related to the capital project reserve. And that was the surplus from the following school year that the board approved for us to put in the capital reserve. So you see the activity going on. And then throughout the year, as mentioned in the miscellaneous revenue, there's interest occurred. That was interest through March. And then if you get to the column that's balances of 3/16/2026, and then I estimated what I expect their interest from that period on through June 30th. And then the second to last column is the use in the 26-27 budget year and where we will be at the end of this year, that year. So as you can see, we are slowly starting to use those reserves, but they are slowly declining at this time. So in June, the Finance Committee is going to reconvene and we're going to look at tackling our reserve plan and what we want to do. One of the things that we talked about is we have a lot of money sitting in a liability reserve. And like I said, it's restricted and we can only use it for if we're getting sued. So we may want to look at, is there a better use of that money, putting it up into a different category? So in the month of June, and June's an appropriate time because that's when we're looking at what we're going to use with any surplus money at the end of this year. So in June, we're going to revisit our reserve plan, figure out what our long-term plan is, and then at the June board meeting, we'll make a recommendation for any unused money for this year, but also look for the board to adopt the new reserve plan. So as part of a resolution as required by New York State, when you adopt the budget within 24 hours, you also have to approve the property tax report card, which is pretty much a summation of what we just talked about. It is 2 pages. The top page is a side-by-side comparison of the budget and the tax levy. And the bottom part of this page is our fund balance, both restricted and non-restricted. And then the last one is that 4% that I believe Mr. Bastian has informed you guys about. So the district can have fund balance of sitting out there of roughly 4%. And the district intends to remain compliant with that 4% going forward. And then the last page is the chart that I provided about the reserves. It just lists the reserves, the balance as of today, the estimated balance as of June 30th, and then the far right column is what we intend to use for next year's budget. I know it's small, but in order for you guys to approve the property tax report card, I felt it was appropriate that you actually saw it. So that's property tax report card. So overall, total revenues we're in a balanced budget. We have $21 million in revenues, $21 million in expenditures, and as you can see in the side-by-side chart, we are balanced budget. You cannot approve a non-balanced budget. Any comments and questions in regards to the budget? If there's any other feedback, if you want me to change it, we do have a budget hearing. I'm open to feedback to help anybody else understand as well. Do we want to adopt it before we go into the propositions?
I'm looking for a motion to approve the 2026-2027 budget expenditures. And then Jen, do I also have to say the property tax? Okay. And should we do them together? Okay. And the property tax report card for the 26-27 school year?
Oh, motion?
Can I get a second?
I will second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried.
Thank you all. So what else is going to be on the ballot? So we have 2 propositions in addition to the budget proposition. The first one is the energy performance contract vote. At the March Board of Education meeting, the Board of Education appointed an EPC contractor. And as previously stated, there is no cost to this project, but we have an opportunity to do improvements in our facilities. We're looking at HVAC controls, we're looking at LED lighting, and they call it building enveloping. So it's like caulking and closing out where cold air is getting into the building. Those are the main parts of the project. If the community gives us the approval, we would receive 10% in additional building aid, which would give us the ability to do more within that project. So it is a no-cost proposition. It is only additional revenue that the district would receive. In addition to the EPC vote, we have the library tax proposition. They are looking to increase their tax levy from $180,000 to $198,000. So in addition to the budget vote, we also have a Board of Education election. There are currently 2 Board of Education positions that expire at the end of the school year. Both are 3-year terms. Mrs. Green has done a great job keeping up on that website, as she always does. So any information, petitions are available either from Ms. Green or right on our district website, that's listed right there. Petitions are due to the district clerk by 5 p.m. on April 20th, 2026. Other important dates, again, April 20th by 5 p.m., the Board of Education candidates or petitions are due. On May 6th, right here in the LGI at 6 p.m., we will have a budget hearing. And then May 19th is the budget vote and Board of Education election. It will be running from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium library. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we are moving on with the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from March 18th, March 23rd, and the CSE minutes. I get a motion, please.
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Next, moving on to personnel, we have resignation. I'm looking for a motion to accept the resignation for the fitness room intramural supervisor effective March 23rd. Can I get a motion, please? And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Appointments. I'm looking for a motion to approve the appointments for election inspectors, the 2025-26 secondary extracurricular activity advisors, the 25-26 intramural supervisor, and a 10-month typist position. Could I get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second again.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. New business, old business. We have an invoice from Capital Region BOCES, invoice 259-26F. Can I get a motion to approve the invoice? I'll move. And a second? Second?
Oh, yeah, Sandy, take it away.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Transportation. I am looking for a motion to approve the transportation requests for the 26-27 school year, 4 students to Lima Christian School and 2 students to St. Mary's School. Would need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
A second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Creating position. I would need a motion to approve to create the position for a 1.0 registered nurse, 10-month effective April 9th, 2026. Get a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Then we have the 4 County School Board Association ballot. I am looking for a motion to vote on the ballot
I'll move.
and a second. Is there any discussion? Did anybody want to have anything added for the ideas that they were looking for?
Who are we
Or, no, it's just a yes or no.
Right, so.
No, it's not, Megan, it's not for individual people. It's just the whole yes or the whole no. The whole ballot. So are we voting, can I get a motion to vote for yes? In a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is there anyone opposed to that? All right, that is carried. Jen, did you need any ideas for that, or we're just, okay, did anybody have anything they wanted to add to it? Megan?
I know, well, now that are you looking at, okay. So it says like the top below are topic suggestions from our recent Board of Directors meeting. I know a lot of it, I've talked about it like from my legislative meeting. So there's legal updates, what laws have changed recently, CPR certification for Board of Education members. I know that we've talked about that. Security with an FBI presentation, the state of SED, the state of education, and the New York State Energy Research and Development. These are all things that other like boards would like to see presentations on. And it asks if you guys are interested. It says, please check all meeting topics your board would like to see presentations on. So I guess open it up to you guys if there's things that you would like to see at their meetings. Anybody's, I know those are all kind of things that I've talked about to you guys, but I don't know if that's something that you guys would like to see the board present as well. And then they do write like a little recap usually afterwards. Just an information thing if you guys are interested. I know I would check all, me personally, I would like to check all the boxes just to learn more information, because I think that's stuff, especially the EV bus mandate and what laws have changed are very helpful. So.
Do we just want to start? Anybody just go around quick? Go ahead, Karen.
Always starts with me. I do like the idea about the EV buses since we've talked a lot about that. I also like the idea about energy efficiency. I think as we look at our budget, that's a huge piece of it. That's a huge concern personally, as well as I think for the district.
Yeah, I like the EV bus mandate. I also kind of like the CPR certification for board members. And maybe the security FBI presentation.
I'm good with the EV bus and the energy efficiency. And I don't disagree that, like Megan said, when you do attend these meetings, it sometimes can be like, it's always the same and it's very repetitive, but there's a reason for it. So I don't object to, like Megan said, checking them all. I would be okay with that.
There's also another side. It says what topics such speakers would you like to see for counties to offer in the next year, 2026 to 2027, as a or at general membership meetings. Is there anything that you guys are interested in learning about? Anything extra at this time?
I think mental health is a big one, especially since we've talked about that as one of our goals and our focuses, especially with having the mental health providers here today. I think that's a pretty significant issue.
Same.
I don't disagree with that. I would be fine with that. And I know that last year we talked about, I guess it would be more of a BOCES thing. Remember last year when we talked about joining with Bloomfield to have the discussion with the other school districts, and we sent out the email about having a retreat of some sort, and then decided that wasn't the best route to go. But at some point, I would like for us to relook at that. And I know that BOCES is going through a change with the district superintendent and all, but that was supposed to happen last year and it never got brought up. I just don't want that to fall away. So I guess I'll use this opportunity to just remind us all that that never happened and that took a lot of time. And I know that we all wanted to see that happen and we put a lot of work into it. So I just at some point would like to redo that if we can. If they would consider it. That's what I was saying. I think it's probably more of a BOCES thing because that's, well, yeah, then do it. I know originally Lynn said that she would put something together and then it didn't happen, but if it can go on there, if everybody's okay with it, then we'll add it. I would just like to see something happen and be able to bounce ideas off each other and see what works for the other districts that we're not doing, and then we could equally share back things that we're doing that are working for us. And that's the only way I think that schools our size and are going to get through this. So we all kind of need each other right now. I think we should be
I
bouncing
agree.
ideas off each other.
I agree.
Thank you for writing all that, Jen. Does anybody have anything else for that? All right. That completes that, right, Megan? Okay.
All of it right down.
Okie dokie. Then we will move on to the capital improvement project. We have an invoice and I'm looking for a motion to approve the Relcom invoice 158268.
I'll move.
And a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is carried. Next, moving on to comments from the Board of Education. Does anybody have anything for that? Is that a no from everybody? Okay. I just wanted to let you all know that I attended the NISBA cybersecurity webinar. There was no fee for that. It was a free thing. It was a half an hour of my time. Hi, Jerry. Uh, it was very short, obviously for a half an hour is very short, but informative. And they were saying, I believe this is the first of 6 webinars that they're going to be doing that are going to interconnect with the convention that's coming up. So if you're interested in anything that might be coming at the convention, keep an eye on these things. They basically said it's not, how did they word it? It's not if you're going to be cyber attacked, it's when. And that's how we should all be looking at that situation. So, next, I wanted to talk about, in one of the things that I've recently attended, they brought up the point about subcommittees for the board. And I thought it was a good point, which is why I'm bringing it up. They said that they would suggest not appointing people to subcommittees at your reorganizational meeting. Because when you think about it, that's usually the first week and a half of July. And when you think about it, that's also the meeting in which you're swearing in your new board members. So they are not necessarily going to be comfortable jumping in. And I thought of you, Karen, because I remember looking at your face and you were like, what is happening? So they actually recommend that we wait until August or September for that time. I just wanted to give you that piece of information, and it's something we can consider for later on. But it was an idea that was brought up if we don't want to have it added to the reorg meeting. Yes, Jermaine.
Question. That makes perfect sense. I'd like to say first. How does that apply to the current subcommittee members? Meaning, if we have a finance meeting in August, but we haven't appointed anyone, does that mean that Jerry and I are still on the finance committee, or does that stop it in July and we're just kind of floating with no subcommittee members?
I would assume that it would carry over, because if we're not reappointing anybody and we have people, I mean, it's something we can obviously discuss. I mean, I don't know what we have for finance. I know at that point, facilities might still be going on. Jim and I have ridden that ride for the whole time we've been on the board. But I mean, that's something if we could all come to agreement on how we want that to be. And maybe if there's a committee and say like one of us has gone off the board and we were serving on that committee, typically there should be at least one other board member with you. But if not, for some reason, maybe we could have, I don't know, the board president or somebody would become the fill-in for that. But we can talk about it. I just wanted to make sure you guys had the information on it, because I thought it was a good point, because you want people able to do the job and feel comfortable doing the job, and everybody, I feel like, should have an opportunity to be on a committee if they want to. So I just wanted to share that. And then Jerry, Megan, and I met to break the handbook apart. So we took, I believe it was a 39-page document, and we made it I believe it is now 13 pages with the title page and the table of contents. So that is meant to be for a newer board member or someone that is interested in potentially becoming a board member. So it's more quick facts and not as in-depth of reading. So we tried to make it user-friendly. So my question is, now that we've moved that material from the handbook to the guide, should we remove the material from the handbook that has been switched over to the guide, or keep the handbook totally complete like it is right now?
I'm not sure I understand.
So we have a handbook currently that so what we did the other night was we got together, we went through that whole handbook and we pulled apart what we thought was the most important pieces in that for somebody that's a new board member and help them get their feet underneath them, or somebody that was potentially wanting to become a board member and wanting to learn more. So we pulled that information from the handbook and put it in a guide. I believe our original intent was to then remove the information from the guide or from the handbook, I'm sorry, and leave it in the guide. Is everybody good with doing that? That would then make the handbook a lot shorter as well.
We're trying to eliminate redundancy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because
So,
one,
right,
like
for
the
sure.
way it's worded now is like the handbook is for a veteran or a veteran board member or somebody that's looking to grow more, and the other one is for somebody that's just onboarding. And so is everybody good with cutting the duplicates now out of the handbook? And then once I do that, is everyone okay if we have Jen post it to the website? So that there's both of those pieces, because I know originally we said the guide would be done so that people that were going to want to have interest to join the board or run for the board had that information available to them. So I'd like to get that done. So I can, if it's okay with everybody, just delete that duplicate information and have two more usable. Is that everyone okay with it? Okie dokie. And then I just wanted to remind you all that we have the board evaluation where we evaluate our own board. Is going to be coming up. I have June 12th written down, but I did not write down if that was the start or the end date. I believe it's probably the end date. So do we want to come up with a date to begin it? Does anyone have any ideas? Do you want 2 weeks? More? I believe we'll be done with the superintendent evaluation on May 15th. So would you like to start this like as soon as we're done? Okay. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So then May 16th, we'll begin the board evaluation. And June 12th, we will finish. And then we will need to do a workshop before June 26th. So do you want Jen to send out availability to everyone on that? Okay, can you do that, Jen? Okay, thank you. So we have to be done by June 12th, and I'll need, just give me like 5 days to make sure I have everything put together. So anytime from,
26th or the 22nd through the 26th.
no, June 12th, add, yep, and add 5 days. So anytime from the 17th to the 24th, because we have to be done by the 26th. That's graduation. I don't want to make anybody do any more than they need to. Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much. And then that is all I have for board comments. Is there anything else anybody has? No? Yeah, did you have any kudos? Okay. All right, then we need to go into executive session.
Yes, I think we were going to allow Jennifer a chance to share the
Okay.
new procedures for the ballots coming
yeah.
up for the upcoming vote.
Thank you. So yes, there are some changes to the budget, the vote election. We now have to report to the state all of the voting results. So, so all of the voters, all of the results have to be reported after election. This went into effect April 1st. So it's really hitting the schools really hard. We just found out 10 weeks ago that this was coming, being effective. Like we knew it was coming, but everyone's like, oh, they're not ready. The state's not ready. But then they said, oh, we're ready and we need to do this. So I worked with Derek. I spoke with Natalie. We are purchasing Bold systems and they're an election support system. They're going to be coming in because now we have to have, it's not voter registration, but people have to register to vote. So it's not going to be signing on the paper. They have to be on the tablets. So our voting process is going to look a little bit different. So I really need to get the information out because it's just going to be different. And when there's change, people don't like that. So it's not going to be It should be fairly quick. Now, if you vote, you've always gone in now and you sign in on the tablet, so your information is in there. But because we are a poll registration vote, which means you don't have to be a registered voter. So how BOLD works, they're working with the Board of Elections because New York State is like, we need to have a list of all your qualified voters, which is impossible for a school because you don't have to be a registered voter. You have to be 18, a citizen, and a resident of the district for 30 days. No school is going to have that information for their district. So what this BOLD system is doing, they're working with the Board of Elections to download all of the registered voters. So the registered voters will be in our system. But if you're not a registered voter, you can still come in and vote, but we have to enter you when you come in. So now the people at the tables, it won't be quick because they have to enter your information into a system. So it's new to everybody. But working with BOLD system, there is a registration form that I spoke with Natalie about, and I want to put it out on a parent square. I want to put it on our website. I want to put it on our social media with a quick little, a long little information about the new system and the new law. And it's very specific that this isn't going to make you a registered voter, but you have to be registered within our district. I just want to get as much information out as possible so people know it's going to look a little bit different when they come into the school to vote. But it's the same process. They're gonna type you into the system, you're in there, they're checking you to vote, you're gonna get your ballot, you go vote, you leave. It's that electronic system now. But the New York State wants information. They want to know who's voting, the demographics of, where the people are voting. It's gonna be a neat system. There's gonna be a lot of reports that can be pulled. But they need to know the district boundaries. I mean, they're getting very specific, so so this system's going to be very beneficial. We'll have a lot of great reports, but the day of the vote is going to look different, and I want to get that information out as soon as possible. And if people have questions, I want them to be able to reach out to me sooner than later. But I'm hoping not to have a lot of upset people with the change on the day of the vote.
Jen, did you want to talk about the opportunity you're going to provide for the community members who are the helpers on that day?
The BOLD system is going to come in. We have 2 times on the 20th for our election inspectors to be trained. I've already sat through an hour-and-a-half training. I'll have another training, and then we have a day with the election workers that they can come in and get trained on the actual tablets. BOLD will provide the tablets, and they will be in the area the day of the vote to provide support. So they're going to be going, because a lot of districts are rushing now because we have to come up with this system. So they're going to be in the area that morning to help if there's any problems, which we hope there won't be.
Jen,
Yes,
how much does this cost us?
it's comes at a pretty hefty fee. They did cross-contract it with BOCES. I don't know if that's aidable or not. So it's aidable, but I think the first setup fee is like $11,000.
So can you say unfunded mandate?
Yes. It will be cheaper next year.
Thanks for the good news. Yeah, I know. Okay. Is everyone all set so that we need to go into executive session?
Yep, and we do need to go into executive to discuss the employment history of particular employees.
Okay. So then could I get a motion to enter into executive, please?
I'll move.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in executive. Executive. And then, does anybody have anything else before we adjourn? All right, then I will need a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move.
Megan, and then Jermaine, you want a second? All right. 8:36, and I need an all in favor? Aye. Any opposed to that? Nope. Okay, we are adjourned.